Hi, everybody. How's it going? Welcome again to FF Studios, episode number 33. And welcome if you guys are watching us from your homes. Again, thank you for all the support you have given our channel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe down below. Today, we actually have a very, very exciting podcast for you guys. Not only do we have a treat with our friend here coming from all the way over there in the city of Downey, but it's going to be a little bit of a different podcast for you guys today, where hopefully you guys get a chance to not only meet Ernesto here, who's been doing a lot of great things for the city of Downey, but at the same time, a little twist from what we're used to in entertainment and business. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about politics, which I know elections are coming up overall. Very important times for this country and for the city that you live in as well. And so he's here to not only give his take on what he thinks is going to be valuable that he's going to add to the city of Downey, but for you guys to get a chance to know him as well. He's a friend of ours here at FFC, and so we wanted to share him with the world. So again, Ernesto, thank you for joining us today, and welcome to to FFC Studios.
Well, thank you for having me.
I know we had we've gotten a chance to connect a lot these last couple months, and it's been great to get to know you. And I know you're running for council member here in the city of Downey. So before anything else, I know there's a lot of people that know you watching this, but I know there's a lot of people who don't know you. So why don't you tell them a little bit about your background, where you're from, how did you get to this position where you're at right now?
I ask myself every day, how did we get here? But in all seriousness, for those that don't know me, Ernesto Valle, better known as Ernie or the Prez. I've been the president of Northwest Downey Little League for the last 5 years. Okay. Out of District 3. A little bit about me, my background. I'm a husband, a father, so I have 4 kids, a stepdaughter who's 20, my son who's 12, daughter who's 9, and the little one, Chidi's, who's 3 years old. So I'm a little bit all over the place with kids. When it comes from a personal background, parents, Mexican, from the great state of Jalisco and Aguascalientes.
All right.
Yeah, so a little bit of that. So Jalisciense.
Shout out to
all the people from Jalisco. That's right. So growing up, grew up in the city of Huntington Park. Graduated from Huntington Park High. Went to Mount St. Mary's for college. Went to HP High. Did a lot of different things growing up. A lot of experiences, but definitely the biggest background was family. Did a lot of stuff. My dad would take me back to the ranch to pick up those traditions, that hard work, that things that just you only learn by doing. So had that in my background as well. But when it comes to a personal background, like employment history and things of that nature, I've been in the banking industry for over 20 years. I was a big wig at a large bank. And now I run my own insurance company through Farmers Insurance. So that's a little quick bit in the background. But one of the things.
Why politics, Ernie? Why politics? Because I know banking, a lot of people can make a lot of money. I know with the background you have, obviously you've built insurance company. You've built a pretty successful life for yourself. Why politics?
Well, why do we do what we do in anything? I'm passionate about certain things. That was the first thing as to why do you want to be on the board for Little League, right? And now why politics? It's basically as a person, as an individual, we like to, excuse the language out there, but we like to bitch and complain about things and why don't we have this and why don't we have that and why this and why that. Mm-hmm. But in reality, we have to take a step back and say, hey, we all love to complain and we all see some things that need change, but we can only do it from the inside out. Now, why politics? That's where we look at the things that there's so many things that are going on at a national level. Those things, to some extent, we really can't control. So I'm a big believer in control, no control. What are some of the things that we could change here? What are some of the things that are going on in my city that I personally don't like and love to complain about with a lot of people from District 3 and from Downey in general that they don't like? And again, we can only do so much with complaining, and sometimes we have to take a step and work from the inside out.
Okay. So why are you interested in this position? What are some of the things that you're working for that you have seen here in the city of Downey that the city can really benefit from, the people here can really benefit from?
So a couple of big item tickets that everyone that's running for District 3 right now has talked about. Crime and homelessness, right? They all say crime in Downey. We just had a snatch and grab at the Stonewood Mall the other day at one of the jewelry stores. And then we talk about the homelessness and the riverbed and this and the other. So those are big ticket items that people are just had enough of in the city of Downey that keeps increasing. If you look at Positively Downey, if you look at all these media outlets, they constantly talk about, look, this happened. My car got stolen into this break-in, whatnot, the homeless people. So, okay, we get that. For me, in addition to those two topics, as I talk to the people, is children. It really starts with our youth, because once you get to the homelessness and to crime, that's after the fact. It really starts with our youth. So I've been a big proponent for youth and education since I've been, probably since my kids were born, right? Because that's when it hits you in the face. Like, it starts with our youth. And then the other topic that I want to tackle that I've talked to people in Downey and District 3 is homeowners and businesses. You know, so for a hot topic that happened in the last election or with the previous council person in here was rents. So, well, we talk about crime, we talk about homelessness. Well, what can we do as a city of Downey to help people become homeowners? So it's easy to say homelessness, it's easy to say crime and just say, I want to hire more cops. That's great. Then why do we need a council for, right? Just we solve the answer. It's hire more cops and crime will go down. But really, again, it goes back to our families. When you helped me with the toy drive, and I think I told you, is you generously donated $1,000 for that. We raised over 1,000 toys. No one knows this, or not that many people know this, but kids were asking for deodorant, shampoo, hygiene products. Those are kids from Downey. So what that tells me is we have families that are living paycheck to paycheck, like in most parts of the country. So they're on the verge of maybe becoming homeless, maybe taking that next. So we have to take a step back and say, okay, we need to invest more in our youth. And youth is not necessarily our 5, 6, 7-year-old. It's our 18 through 22. So what are some of the things that we could do is, hey, have we thought about opening trade schools here? College is not for everyone. Let's just call it what it is. College is not for everyone, so can we create some trade schools that will help our youth get better employment? Maybe our struggling families that are currently working a job that doesn't pay very well, maybe we could get, if we get the right trade school in here, get them a better career opportunity where they're making more money, right? And then can we partner up with the local banks, create grants as a city for first-time home buyers to give them the opportunity to now become homeowners? Because if we focus on that part, if we're giving our youth the proper education and the tools to get good jobs, and then maybe those people that are struggling to get better jobs and now to become homeowners, guess what's going to happen to crime? Statistically, it goes down. You're a homeowner, you're going to take pride in your community, you're making more money. Now you're not being tempted to do other things to make ends meet. So those are some of the 4 pillars that I'm really running for. And I think the city of Downey would agree if you look at all the posts on social media. Even though I'm not big on social media, I read a lot of what people are thinking, and I talk to a lot of people. So.
Yeah, no, I'll make sure if you look down below in our link, you can see his Instagram. You guys can follow him. Make sure you guys go support. I know he's going to be more active moving forward. And more than anything else, it's just a place for people to connect, get a chance to know a little bit more about you, your personal life, things like that, right? But for you, from what you have seen in the past, right, that maybe, and I know we talked a little bit about this before, but a lot of our viewers, including, even myself growing up, we're not really, sometimes we don't get up and move and vote, participate in our communities, things like that, because we feel like it doesn't, like we don't matter. Like our vote doesn't matter because we see people get elected, then they become ghosts. And then a couple years later, re-elections come, and all of a sudden they're doing things, they're coming back, and then elections, ghost again. What do you think are the roles a council member should really fulfill? And what do you foresee yourself fulfilling in this role on a maybe day-to-day, week-to-week basis, month-to-month basis to get someone maybe that's watching this for the first time to say, hey, Ernesto is going to be different?
That's a great question. So number one, I think one of the learnings from previous council members that we've elected or even current ones, depending on how you feel, is do your research on your council member. I encourage everyone to do their research. Every vote does matter because someone told me a long time ago, if you don't vote, then you don't have the right to complain. It really, you know, a lot of people and far better people than me, you know, fought for our right to vote. And if you want to change something, you need to go out there and vote. And I'm counting, and I'm going to teach you how easy it is to register. If you haven't registered, go to sos.ca.gov. You can register online. You could go to City Hall and pick up a pamphlet, voter's registration card, and mail it in. But that's the first step of making a difference. If you don't have time to volunteer, if you don't have time to be into politics or policies or whatnot, or attend board meetings, at least do the research, do your due diligence to make sure you're getting the right candidate. Whether I'm not the candidate for you, do the research so you could say that I made the best, I used my vote the best way possible, number one. Number two is, I think that in order not to be a ghost, you need to have been someone for the community, of the community. So when you look at the three candidates, again, I want to stay on my platform, but what's different for me is I have kids that are currently in elementary school. I've been in DOWNEY since 2007, and I've been volunteering for the last 6 years in Little League. I was a PTA president, so I've taken people to my house. They know where I live. People my kids have been involved in sports, whether at Furman Park for baseball or Gracie Baja Jiu-Jitsu. So a lot of people know my kids. Oh, there goes Batman. They call my son from Jiu-Jitsu. That was his fighting name. And there goes Brianna, and there goes Ernie. So I've met a lot of people in the community. So I'm not going anywhere, right? I'm not going to be a ghost. Number two is I'm going to hold myself accountable. And I think I'm the only one that said this out there. I want to have at minimum once a quarter. If I can, have it once a month. Again, just for time constraints, I don't want to promise something that I'm not going to be able to do. But at minimum once a quarter, I want to have a podcast with you live. I know some people don't like to go live, but say, hey, you guys voted me in for this, this, and this. This is what I ran on. This is what I'm doing. This is what's working. This is what's not working, but kind of give you an up-to-date status of where I'm at. I'm not looking to go into the Senate. I'm not looking into becoming, a congressperson. Again, I'm hoping that my kids, my oldest goes to Griffiths. He's going to graduate from Warren, hopefully. And then I have my baby who's 3 years old. So I have a long time here in the city of Downey for the city of Downey. So that's a great question. I'm not going to disappear. I hold myself accountable because guess where I eat? I patronize the local businesses in Downey. So I want people to be able to come up to me and say, Ernie, this is going on. This is an issue. How can we resolve it? What are you doing? You promised this. Hold me accountable. You're going to see me. I'm not going to be leaving the city. And that's one aspect that I think distinguishes me from the other candidates is you do see me out there. Right now I'm suited and booted, so to speak, but I also know when to roll up my sleeves and put on my boots. And people have seen me on opening day, field day, working on the fields. So again, I'm someone that's going to work my tail off, and someone that's going to be approachable, and someone that's going to give you a report card as to what I'm doing. So whatever I'm running on, I'm going to hold myself accountable, and I'm going to give you updates. So I'm not disappearing.
I love that. And it's very encouraging to hear because, like you said, there's not much of that out there. And I feel like that's what will hold somebody accountable when they know they have to, not so much of a status report, but it's helping people know where you're really at based on the promises or commitments you made. And that builds trust.
Yeah. And
important.
And thank you. And I don't, some of the things that I'm running, and I'm going to throw an elephant in the room right now. There's Measure M that passed for lights at Furman Park. I've been pressing for lights at Furman Park for the longest, right? Recently, I ran into some individuals that are against for lights at Furman Park. And I get it. I used to have a house on Wileyburg. Traffic's insane. So I get it. But guess what? I think I found a solution as to what we can do to minimize the traffic, right? So maybe we knock down the tennis court and build a parking structure and put the tennis court at the top. Because I do believe that lights is a good way of minimizing crime. You know, again, we're not going to have the lights 24 hours there for our residents. They are moving the fields up more inward, so it's not going to be affecting the residents. But I do know that parking has been an issue, and I want to address that. So again, the decisions that I'm going to run for the majority. So there's going to be some people that are going to be upset. But my approach is also to provide solutions, and can we get to a common ground that will hopefully impact everyone in a positive way, right? So let's find a solution on a compromise to make as many people happy, but at the same time, 2 years from now, next year at next elections, one thing I promise is you're not going to say, I'm not going to have one person say he ran on this and backtracked. That's not going to be me. I ran on something. I promised something. I'm going to keep my word. And that's the way I was raised and brought up. So,
I love that. It makes me kind of, it adds to the question I have about, and this is maybe a little bit broader, but what do you think are some of the qualities that a council member needs to have to actually be effective when running? Because like we've talked about, the reason why a lot of people sometimes don't go out and vote, don't do these things, is because a lot of people make promises. And this is, I mean, you're talking to someone in their late 20s who's a Latino who grew up in HP, who probably hasn't voted as much as he should have. And I'm sure people watching this, 50%, if not more, of the crowd are probably in the same boat. What are some things or qualities that you think that council people or people in any kind of, that are running for any kind of candidacy of a sort need to have to help us feel more at peace with making sure that our vote matters and that our vote counts?
I think the number one thing that a council member should have is passion of doing what's right. What's right and doing the right thing aren't necessarily always the same thing, but you need to have the passion and fortitude to do what's right. You need to listen. So if you read the paper, I said I want to bring the voice back to District 3. Since I've been a DOWNEY resident, I believe since 2007, I don't know who my council member's been. I haven't. So that's just my reality. So certain things were out of whack. I didn't like. We made calls, no response. So I think the number one thing is you have to be passionate about what you do. You have to care. You have to listen, and you have to lead by example. You have to lead with integrity, right? And you're gonna have to be well organized. So, for me, I'm a father, husband. I was president of the Little League. I was president of the PTA. I have my own business, and I have a 3-year-old, and I coach. So. If I wasn't organized, if you're not going to be organized, then this is not the role for you, because if you think it's going to be easier, it's not. It's going to get harder. And again, you also have to know, and I learned this as an exec, is when to ask for help. I think that's very important. Is we tend to say yes to everything because I don't want him to be upset or her to be upset. I want that vote. I'm going to say whatever it takes to get that vote. No, be upfront, be transparent, and it's okay to say, I don't know, but let me get you the answer. It's okay to say, hey, that's out of my domain, but I need help, and go reach out for help. So those are some of the qualities that I think that make a good council member, that would make a good council member. And then the other part of it is make sure it's someone that's lived in DOWNEY and has volunteered. I think that when you volunteer for something, if you haven't been part of a board, being part of a council is in some ways similar. You have voting, you have Robert's rules of engagement. There's so many little intricacies that you have to learn along the way. I think that when you look at a council member or potential someone that's running, look at their background. Is it someone that, I was given some advice. Oh, go sign up for this club or that club, or, put it that for what? If I haven't really done anything, I'm never going to put my name to something and say I was a part of something when I didn't help out. So to me, I think it's that someone that's running for city council I would hope that our voters take that into consideration. And again, not because of me of what I've done, but I think it's someone, you have to have a track record of what you've done for the city of Downey.
Makes sense. I love that. And thank you for elaborating. It actually brought me to another question that's, I think it's actually an important question to touch because you're Latino.
Yes, sir.
Right. And I know a lot of our community that watches us, of course, of every ethnicity. But me being a Latino as well, I know this was one of the things growing up in a Hispanic or Latino background is we tend to grow up and have a lot of ego. A lot of ego, and it's, call it whatever you want to call it. It's difficult to overcome sometimes, and it stops us from asking for help, stops us from a lot of things. So as a Latino, how did you overcome that? How did you put your pride and ego to the side? And in times of, hey, maybe I don't know the answer, or I can't accomplish this goal on my own, I need some help. How did you put that to the side to be able to realize that it's not just about you or whether I'm right or he's right, it's about what's right? How did you do that? Because I think a lot of people have that same difficulty.
So the best way, again, and just so people understand the scope of what I did at that large bank, I had 55 stores, 55 branches that I was in charge of, 800 employees that were under my belt. And how did I put the ego aside? I think there's a certain sense of being confident and being cocky. So I tell my son all the time, be confident, but don't be cocky. Always pretend. He's one of the better players, but I always tell him, practice like you're one of the worst. For me, it was very simple. 10 years ago was I hold people's lives in my hand. So it's not best what's for me. It's what's best for the community. It's what's best for the greater good of this banking center, the greater good of this team. So, again, going into Little League, anyone that's known me, I know that there was rumors, the board mafia and this. I never once made a decision that would directly help my kid. I never voted in for All-Star. I always withdrew myself. I separated myself. The reason for that is I focused on making the league better. By making the league better and more competitive, it was going to indirectly have an impact on my son, because by him playing in a better league with better coaches, better players, getting him developed, guess what? He was going to get better. I could have easily stepped back and he's going to be an all-star no matter what. But number one, what was I going to teach him? And number two is that was not going to ultimately help him in the scope of things. So putting my ego aside was, right now, there's one or two candidates on the council that I may not necessarily agree with their political views on the nation or certain things, right? But guess what? I don't care. If that council person puts something on paper that's going to benefit the city of Downey, benefit District 3, I'm going to work my tail off with that individual to make it happen, regardless of what he or she thinks politically or on certain things that don't pertain to the city of Downey, right? We don't have to have a beer together to have respect. Mm-hmm. After this podcast, I'm lucky to have a great relationship with you, but we could catch a beer. Even if we didn't, I would still respect you for your time, and thank you for the opportunity, and we part ways. That's it. How can we work together on an item for the greater good? And that's ultimately, if we make, so again, with them, what's in it for me? By making Downey better, by working with our Board of Education, by working with our homeowners and business owners, by minimizing the homelessness, by minimizing crime, selfishly, what am I doing? I'm creating a better Downey for my kids, right? So you got to look at the bigger thing and screw the ego, screw this. Maybe it's not the best thing for me right now, but ultimately it's the greater good will prevail and will help you out.
I love that.
Sorry for a long answer, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I've always, that's one of the things that for me as well, same thing I learned at a younger age, and it's not about whether you're right, I'm right, he's right. It's about what's right. And at the end of the day, that will prevail amongst us all. So, no, I love that. I know one of the questions that we had actually was about, what do you see right now being one of the main challenges in this role if you are to be elected?
A couple of things, and this is from the city of Downey, from the residents, and from what I've seen is one of the challenges is it's not necessarily for me, it's from the council itself. Sometimes seems to be, is everyone working together, right? So one of the challenges for me that I've seen is, are you with so-and-so? Are you with so-and-so? Right off the bat, are you going to be working with this person? Are you going to be working? Guess what? Again, I'm going to go out there right now is I'm not working with one person or one individual. I'm working with everyone. And again, putting Downey and our youth at the forefront of our decisions. So that's going to be a challenge because number one is I'm an outsider, right? And I'm going to go in there with a new pair of glasses. So I think I've shared this with my buddy here, this example, but my mom, siempre que me veía, she'd be like, I would see her like every 3 months, especially during COVID and all that. So I wouldn't see her that often, but it'd be like, if she didn't see you for 3 months, and my mom had no filters, ay, mijo, qué gordo te has puesto. Because she hasn't seen you for
eso estoy en dieta yo.
Por eso estoy en dieta. No, so she'd be like, oh, mijo, you've gotten so fat. Because she hadn't seen me in 3 months. But if you see me every day, you may not notice that I gain weight, right? So that's how I'm addressing that as hopefully a new council person is I'm going to go in there with a set of new eyes, and I'm going to question things. And residents, I know that some of you, there's certain things that I don't know. That's why this election is so important, because I'll be very transparent with people. This could be potentially a 9-year term. This election is only good for 1 year. Then I'm going to have to run, God willing, if I win, or whomever wins is going to have to run again next year for the same seat, right? So why am I doing this? Well, because it's going to be a learning curve. I'm going to have a learning curve when I go in there. I have ideas that may or may not fly right off the bat because they might not be doable. There was something I put in the paper that got totally misconstrued. It was, Ernesto wants to tax the youth. No. I clearly said that there's an influx of non-residents that bring their kids to Downey. There was a bond that passed where really it was a tax that increased our taxes and said it was $200 a year. To me, it's closer to $700 a year that I'm paying, right? Our classrooms went from 20 to, in 2007, when I first came to Downey, there was about 22 kids per classroom. Now there's 40. Now, clearly, I said, this is probably a question for the Board of Education. And some people right away attacked me. You should run for the Board of Education. Why are you running for city council? Well, you know what? Because taxes are an issue for the council. So I said, I would love to work with the Board of Education. And I just threw out an idea of something that I proposed maybe we could do, maybe we can't, right? So there's going to be a learning curve for me and as a new council person. So that's going to be a challenge. But I will tell you this much: I don't believe there's anyone on the current ballot that's going to outwork me. I'm going to work my tail off to shorten up that curve and make sure. But I'm going to continue to ask the questions. I'm going to continue to look at this as a new opportunity with new lenses as to what we can and can't do.
Nice. I like that. And so based on the facts right now, and like you said, that unfortunately over the last few years, maybe there's not a lot of faith in the politicians here that we have because of actions that have not happened more than anything else. So how do you plan to create a more united Downey, if you want to call it that?
Well, number one is I think they have to see us in action. I'm not taking shots at anyone, but I know I need to do a better job of posting what we do in social media, or for myself. Truthfully, I shared with you, and I'm going to repeat a little bit of our private conversation, is I don't post it too much on social media because sometimes I feel like people are going to say, oh, he's posting it because he wants people to have this portrayal of him. I'm more of a doer and engage. So one of the things that I think our politicians should do, like I said, whether I win or lose this election, you're still going to see me on field day at Furman Park working on the fields for our kids. Whether I win or lose this election, you're still going to see me working at the Helps Center at Apollo. Whether I win or lose this election, I'm still going to be involved with the community. So how do you bring unity and how do you bring trust to the voters is when they see you working your tail off as a contributing member. When they see you reaching out to groups that may not fit in who you are as a person, but that will benefit the city of Downey. For example, I've been trying to work and never got a call back I had Pachuca United, soccer, and I'm joking a little bit, but that's not necessarily my cup of tea. But
or we can end the podcast now. I'm just kidding.
But I had a hookup come up to me, and I suggested, why don't we bring you over to the city of Downey, and we could put you at that new, beautiful, multi-million-dollar stadium that we have there, and bring some professional soccer at a really reduced price to help our youth. So how do we keep kids out of gangs, out of this? We keep them involved. We give them other options through sports, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, whatever. You're learning loyalty. You're learning teamwork. You're learning hard work, right? So you're learning character traits that transcend to other areas of life. Never got a call back. That was going to increase our visibility. It was going to help out our youth. It was going to create revenue. So why wouldn't we do that? So again, I'm joking, but I'm willing to work with other areas that are not necessarily my cup of tea because it would benefit the city of Downey. And when people see you working, I think that creates trust. When people seeing you keep your word and following up, that creates trust. When people see you, once I get in, I'm not going to change because you're going to see a lot of people have jokingly said, man, I haven't seen you without a hat. I always see you with a North Swiss Downey hat or in shorts, right? Guess what? You're still going to see me in shorts. I'm a person. You're still going to, I may not win this election, but I'm the best singer out of any of the candidates. I sing the rancheras right there. So it's still going to be me. I'm not going to change for anyone. I don't break my word for anyone. Anyone that's seen my kid, all my kids, when I ask, hey, Andrew, mande. He says mande. My daughter, my stepdaughter, they all say mande, right? It's like saying yes, sir. They say yes, ma'am, right? I'm not going to change who I am because I have those kids looking up to me. I'm raising them a certain way. So if I become fake, then guess what? I've lost all my credibility with my children, with my wife, with my family and friends. That's not who I am. So how do you create trust? You continue to be the person. I'm running on what I think it's the best, what the residents of Downey, our biggest concerns are. I believe, the best plans to tackle them, and I'm not going to change. Now, if you want someone else, I'm good with that. If you want to vote for someone else based on what you think are the issues, that's great. I'm still going to try to tackle these issues whether or not elected.
No, I love that. I totally agree with that, actually. I love that you said that, because that's actually... People break trust because what they say and what they do doesn't match. And like you said, if, obviously actions will speak for you, but, that's a great way of unifying others, is by you being the person that you say you are and never changing. And obviously through your word, that matters a lot. So awesome. I love that. One of the questions that were asked by some of our audience members, and of course, if you're watching us for the first time, every week we have a podcast episode, whether it's business related with an entrepreneur that we bring in, a client of ours making at least 6 figures or more, to share from that experience, or an entertainer, somebody who's an artist, or even somebody like, him who has multiple hats, actually. You guys have a chance to participate going on our FFC Instagram at Familia Farias Consulting. Every week before the podcast, we will post a story, and right there in the top corner, you can click here, and it'll show you and give you access to be able to ask questions. The best questions come on the podcast. That's where some of these questions came from. And of course, I appreciate you, taking some time to answer them. One of the important questions that was actually asked by a few people were just more on a background of you, Ernesto. What were some of the lessons that you've learned maybe growing up from your family that you plan to bring into this role that, as a, I guess, second generation, or however you want to call it, Latino here? We all come from very different backgrounds, but we all have that solid foundation. What are some of those lessons that you've learned from your parents that you think will help you in this role moving forward here in Downey?
Oh, man. I'll be very, as I continue to be very transparent. When I was younger,
and there's no filters here. Feel free to.
Yeah, thank you. No. Look, I am who I am, and I talk with respect, but I am who I am. There's no filters. The reason it takes me back a minute is my dad raised me with a hard hand. When I was young, and
comment if you had a hard hand life.
Yeah, it's,
I think we all have.
I remember moving some ganado, at the ranch. We were on a cattle drive moving some ganado, and I went to go lasso a cow, and I was like 10 or 11 years old, and all of a sudden I moved to this cow went a certain way, and me and a buddy went to chase it down, and all of a sudden, because I left the gap that I was supposed to cover, cows went through there. So all I felt was a quack, on the back it was a nado la soga, and just, like,
oh man,
that was
you felt that one for a while.
Oh baby, I felt that one, but I wouldn't change my childhood for anything. What I learned from my dad was hard work and dedication, and I'll tell you one story. I'll share one story with my dad. When I did my first oil change. I have a '67 Chevelle, and I did my first oil change when I was 7. And for those of you that know old cars, it was a canister, and it was hot, and I was taking it off, and then and I was like literally facing up, and all the hot oil came on my face, and and whatnot. But just to give you a little background, we would go to the shop in Maywood. The shop's still there, Lencho's Auto Electric, and we would go there every Saturday. Like my dad would wake my ass up at 6 a.m, and we had to do the yard and fix out the girls, and not to offend anyone, but the girls were inside cooking and whatever, and my dad, I was outside. I was a heavy set pulling the lawnmower, right? So every Saturday we would go. So on the Saturday, I think I was 12 years old, and my dad, we were changing the brakes on the van. We were changing the brakes, and my dad had messed up his back a little bit, and he slashed the jack fell, and it slashed his thumb, almost cutting it off completely. So my dad, that was on the weekend, on a Saturday, Sunday, man could barely walk into his car. I literally had to help him inside the car. He was wearing a brace and finger all jacked up. didn't call out sick. He didn't call out sick. He would get home around 12:30. He would go in from 3 to 12. He would go sleep at 12. He would get home at 12:30 at night. I used to hear the Chevelle, and they'd shake the house. And my mom would get up and, get him his dinner, and he'd have a beer and a smoke and go to bed. And he'd be up, rain or shine, at 7 a.m. to take my butt to school. My mom was more of an educated person, and she'd work part-time to be with us. And she'd be up at 10, 11 o'clock. She was a cosmetology instructor, and she'd be doing her lesson plans and whatnot. So if you ask me what I learned from my parents, was a couple of things. One was hard work, and show up no matter what. You could be sick, you could be this and that and the other. You look at my career when I was at that large bank, I never called out. I was there, maybe stupidity, or not, because there were days that I wasn't feeling it. But what I learned from my dad and my mom was, you got to show up, you got to work hard, you got to make it happen no matter what. And combination was, if you want to succeed in life, you got to work hard. My dad was up at 7 in the morning, taking us, making sure we got that education, making sure I got to school, even though we had to sleep in late. And my mom was there working on her lesson plans, trying to build a career for herself. So show up, work hard, and don't settle. My mom never settled. Never settled. Always wanted to learn, always wanted to do better. So I could go on and on, but I think those are the biggest lessons that I could tell you. And when you say something, my dad was old school. I'm a little bit different than my dad in this because I tell my kids I love them all day. But the first time my dad told me, I love you to me, I was 15 years old. But you know what? Even though he said it once, and that was the first time he said it, I'll never forget it. And I know he meant it. So mean what you say. So if you're my friend, I will have your back. That's what that also taught me. If you're going to say something, don't say it just to say it. You better mean it and back it up. So sorry for the going all over the place, but that's the best way I could answer of what I learned from my family.
I love that. And I know there's a lot of lessons that a lot of you guys have learned as well. Thanks for asking that question. And why don't you comment down below? We'd love to hear your guys' stories. What are some things you have learned from your family that you pass on now? And I think it's interesting. You get to collaborate with a lot of people and just learn from each other. And that actually leads to the next question we got, which is, what are some of the, how important is collaboration in, whether it's in the political world or in the real world? Because for those of you who obviously are watching this, we live in a world where information is in abundance, and it doesn't matter as much now. And obviously everybody has their opinion, but in my opinion, it doesn't matter as much now what you know, it's who you know. And obviously a combination of the two, but who you know really matters in any industry. In your case, from what you've seen, I've seen you out and about with all types of people that have influence, in every industry. And I love that because I can relate a lot to that. I noticed that when people succeed in different industries, they've obviously been through something. So they have value to add. It doesn't necessarily mean you agree or I agree with every industry or I'm involved in every industry and I know and enjoy that industry. But everybody that has accomplished something has some value. And collaborating with people that have value or can add value is important. How do you feel about that? How important do you think collaboration is?
You nailed it. Collaboration is fundamental. One of my greatest mentors at the bank that I was for 15 plus years, he would make it a point, and one of the reasons I was very successful was that all my managers under me knew that I would give them credit for, if they had an idea, they would share it because, number one, they knew I wasn't going to steal it. And number two, I would praise them and give them credit up the chain of command that this came from Susie Q, this came from Billy, this came from Arturo, this idea came from here. So you're always learning and adapting. You're also learning. One of the greatest collaborations is also knowing what not to do. So this was also from a mentor, and all of you out there might relate, is we've all had one, at least we've had one great boss that we always say, God, man, that boss was so awesome. And we also have that one boss that, God dang it, man, I quit because of that person or whatever. But guess what? Yeah. But guess what? That bad boss collaborated in your life and taught you what not to do. So collaboration goes both ways. It's not just learning the bad, not just learning the good, but also the bad. And I'm telling you right now, we're set. I'm not telling you to change your ways. I'm just telling you that you're always learning from other people that are successful and like, oh, look, I like how incorporate it to what already works for you. Incorporate that, use it, leverage it, try something different. Don't be scared. It's okay. Like it goes back to what we talked about earlier. I'm going to be right. 97% of the time, I'm going to be right. So there's a 3% chance that I'm not right.
That's right.
I wish that was true.
Humbly speaking.
I wish that was true. But but in reality is, guess what? I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn from my failures. I'm going to learn from my successes. I'm going to learn from you. I'm learning right now. I'm learning from the people. I'm learning these questions. Maybe someone posts a question that, man, I didn't know this was an issue in District 3. Maybe someone has a solution, right? But maybe politics is not their thing. And guess what? If someone comes up to me and I'm walking down the street and they have a great formula for solving, a crime, I'm going to say, hey, this person came up to me in the street and I want to give him credit because I think this is a great way. Again, collaborate. And again, it's all trust, because if they know that you're going to give them credit, or number one, no one knows everything. There's only one being here that's perfect, right? And knows everything. So the more open you are, I'm not telling you to change, I'm just telling you to adapt with time. Those that adapt in the world and are willing to learn are the ones that are going to be more successful.
I love that. And hopefully this added some value to you guys today. Before we end it up, I did definitely want to ask you one further question, which a lot of us, especially in our 20s and maybe even early 30s, that maybe have never done it. How can someone participate in this election and vote? What are some next steps that you would recommend for someone?
So what I want you to do, and again, I've had several people already direct message me. Again, I'm at ernesto.valle67 on Instagram. You can look me up on Ernesto Valle.
In our bio down below is going to be his information, so that you guys can support.
I like to say it, so I feel important.
Say it one more time.
Ernesto.valle. But direct message me. But the best way, because if you have ideas, if you want, topics that you think that us as council members aren't addressing, let me know. That's one way you could do it. Number two is make sure you're registered to vote. So you could go online to sos.ca.gov, sos.ca.gov, register online. Go pick up, if you want to go into City Hall, they have those mail-in forms that you can sign up. Make sure you're registered, because a lot of our residents, it depends on your mailing address. So if you're registered to vote and now live in District 3, but you lived in Huntington Park like I used to and have your mailing address there, then that vote won't necessarily count for this election. The other thing that you could do, forget politics. Screw politics. The best thing you could do is go ahead, go to your local PTA, go to your parks and recs, go to your little leagues. There's several clubs out there, gangs out of DOWNEY. There's so many clubs and organizations that you could go ahead and go and volunteer something. Volunteer. I have two neighbors. You know what they do? They don't belong to any club. They're older. They go every night, they walk the streets, and they take one of those little grapplers to pick up trash and a bag and another bag for recyclables. That's what they do. So it doesn't, obviously I want you to vote because a lot of great people fought for your right to vote. And if you really want to make a difference at a city level and bring up some concerns, vote for the people that you think are going to get the job done, that are going to address your issues. But if voting is asking too much, go volunteer. So those are some things that if you want to make change, if you want to complain, that's great. But if you don't volunteer, if you don't go support your candidates, if you don't do your research on us, then you have no right to complain. And one thing I do want to say is that I'm very proud of my Mexican heritage. Mexicano 100%, gracias a Dios. Orgulloso, muy orgulloso de mi familia, de mis padres, de nuestros ranchos, de nuestra herencia. But I'm here for not just the Latino vote, but for all the residents of District 3, because we're all encountering and fighting the same challenges. Crime, homelessness, that's no joke. It's continuing to increase. So we need to work together if we want to figure this out. And I'm here for the residents of District 3, City of Downey.
Love that. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be here today. Again, it is always a privilege to have you here, and we're excited to just have more people know what Ernesto stands for, and of course, adding value to others watching this that maybe didn't think this was what this is really, right? And that, anybody in the politic world, if you want to call it that there's a lot more to them. And so hopefully this is a platform for a lot of you guys to get to know not only somebody like him who's running, but just in general, educate yourself on different subjects, on different subject matters that are important to adding value to you on a city level.
Yeah, and again, the other thing too is if you contributions. So obviously, I'm gonna start. My fundraising starts today, so please reach out to me. Donations go a long way, but I don't want to raise. I'm not here to raise $100,000. If I have to raise $100,000 to win an election at a local city level, then that's probably what's wrong with politics, right? Mm-hmm. So I really want you to engage me, donate. But if you can't volunteer, if it's too much and you really don't think you're going to make a difference voting, contribute to a local charity, to a local club that helps, office right here and Apollo helps a lot of families, right? Contribute to your local little league, help buy gear. So donations go a long way, to my campaign. But again, there's so many things that you could do just to make a difference in our community.
And if somebody wants to contribute to your campaign, where can they do? Do they Zelle somewhere? Do they drop off cash? How does that work?
Right now, if you have checks, that'd be the best way, and I'd be happy to pick up the check. And as my friend said, I need to get on social media more. So I'd be happy to take a picture and say this person contributed X amount of dollars. You could Zelle. I'm gonna open up a bank account here at Downey Federal Credit Union, local again, staying local here, and I'll go ahead and give out those details at a later podcast. And also I'm gonna go ahead and put on my IG and Facebook page on how you could do that. But if you have a check, if you have a business, need potential tax write-offs, he could tell you more about.
End of the year is coming.
And end of the year is coming. What a great way. But again, if you feel I'm the best person to represent you and fight, and again give you a voice for District 3, then by all means, if you have any questions too, DM me. I've been talking to a lot of people, getting to know a lot of people. Like I said, I'm not you. With me, you get. I am what I am, and you get what you get. But I promise you one thing: no one's going to outwork me, and no one's going to be more transparent.
I love that. And just to conclude, it actually, as you were speaking, it made me think of this story. I'm sure you've heard of it before, but a lot of people here, they want to change the world, but they don't know how to start. And sometimes the best thing you can do outside of starting to change yourself is change the city you live in. Yeah. You change the city you live in, you can change the state. If you change the state, you can change the country. If you change the country, then you can maybe change the world.
I'm tired of seeing Irvine as the safest city every year. What the heck are they doing that we can't do here in Downey? When you know, it's nice to have the Downey Theater and all the accolades that we're getting with the Downey Theater, but the best accolade that we could get, I think, would be like one day saying, dang, Downey voted the best city to live in and the safest city in California. Wow. That would be an accomplishment.
Yeah. That's coming.
I love that. I'm steal that from you.
It's coming, and I hope you guys decide to make a difference in your life. Participate in more of these things so that you can add value to your communities as well, wherever you're looking at us from, whatever city you're a part of. And again, thank you for coming today. Appreciate your time, and hopefully you guys got some value today. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. That's how you support our channel. We don't get paid for doing this. We're not even monetized yet, but we're here bringing as much value as we can for you guys because we know that it matters. So thank you guys very much. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Thank you.